going to tie a glass Baetis, and I've started off with a size 16 scud hook in the vise, and I've got two greenish yellow glass beads on there, and those are just craft store beads. My words of caution with that is, one, you get a ton of beads for not a lot of money, and I'll show you my kind of assortment here. I don't know what that cost, but it wasn't more than a couple of dollars. The problem with that is there's a lot of inconsistencies in the shape, so just be aware of that. And if you don't normally pinch the barb on your hook, I'd recommend doing so. You can get away forcing a brass or tungsten bead head over the barb, but in this case you'll break them. So I'm going to use an 8/0, and this is a light olive. I'm going to be tying some material over top of the beads, so the one thing I want to do is just create a little stopping point for those beads. So I want to have some room behind the eye to tie in material, so I'm going to create just a little thread ball so that I have enough room then when I get to it. So I'll just take a couple of wraps and then whip finish, and then I can clip the thread, and now you can see that those beads only go up so far, and that's left me some room. You want to make sure you put a big enough bump there, otherwise when you start to apply some pressure to the back here, they'll pass through. So make sure you got a nice sized bump there that they won't come through, but that you've left enough room behind the eye to tie in your materials. So now I'm just going to take and secure my thread behind the beads, and I can tie in my tail. And for this I've got a pheasant tail, and it's dyed in a green, and I'm just going to take maybe 4 or 5 fibers there, and I'll just measure them off the back, and then I can tie that in. So just tie that in right on top. And work my way down the hook shank and then back up. Now I can tie in my rib, and for this I'm going to use just a small green rib. So I'll pull off a section. I'm going to tie this in right on top. And the thread is going to make up my body, so I'll spend some extra time and make sure that I've covered all of that rib, or all of the wire, as I work my way back up. And then I'll just start to take my wraps of rib through. And for some reason when I tie this pattern, I like to have my ribbing close together. Maybe it's just the aesthetics of it for me, but put in more wraps per inch or per centimeter than I do with my other patterns. So then I'll just tie that into the back of the bead and break that off. Now I do tie this as a flashback, and so I'm just going to take a piece of pearl tinsel, which again, if you've watched these, you know is my go-to flash. And then I'm just going to take some tan scud back, and I'll just cut this into just a little bit of a V. The nice thing about this is the material that's going to fold over the beads, so I can have them extend that way, and I don't have to be real clean with it because all that's going to be covered up by the same material. So I'll put a couple of wraps in there, and then I'll whip finish. And you'll see the thread that I chose is very comparable to the color of the bead, so that helps that thread blend in nicely. So then I'll cut that. Now the next piece, I'm going to add some legs to it, And I'm going to do that in between the two bead sections. So I'll now reattach my thread. My recommendation here is you'll have to pull it through. If they're nice and tight together, great. If not, you want to make sure you really pull it through so that when you attach these legs, they don't fall in between the cracks of the two beads. So just take plenty of wraps there to give a little thread base for my legs. And I'm going to use just a flash material for the legs. And so I'll just take my flash, just take one strand. If you like to use a more natural material, you can add partridge here if you'd like. And so I'll take a couple of turns on either side. And then just trim them up. Now I'll whip finish again. Alright, now the nice thing about using those legs is that, one, I'm going to apply some epoxy to this at the end, and it won't soak it up. If you have a natural fiber, it'll soak some of that up, and they can be pushed out of the way pretty easy and still hold their shape. So I'll just push those back slightly. I'm going to adjust my hook here, and I'm going to reattach my thread to that place where I made some room at the very beginning of the pattern. So now I can just finish this up by pulling the scud back over top, and then I can pull my flash back as well. And then I can just pull this all up, and I'll start to make some thread wraps underneath. Trim that and then whip finish. Alright, now I've got my just my Sharpie, and this is just a green Sharpie, and all that I'm going to do is add some more color to this. So I'm just going to color over the part of the scud back, and it'll also have that flash in it as well. And I'll take it over top of the threads. I'll give that just a moment to dry. And in the final step here, I'll take some Loon hard clear head cement and just take this along the entirety of the pattern. So I'll even come underneath. And again, this is a case where I like having the synthetic legs. So if I had a more natural material, it would absorb, and actually this head cement will help lock everything in place. So when I rotate my vise, some of it will fall into those joints between the two legs. And you can trim the legs up to whatever the final length is going to be. And that, when it dries, will be my glass Baetis. I'll show you what it looks like with the tail up here.